I don't know how to explain this. I've never seen it. He's like, looks like he's getting shocked every second.
Yeah, it's just very, very, very odd. I'll tell you. It's, like I said, I don't see very many seizures at all. Very odd to see them in the skies for sure.
Hey farm fam, welcome back to my channel. And for those of you that are new, welcome and welcome to today's video. You guys, this is not the video that I had planned for today, but something just happened, as you guys can see in the title, that I shared on my Instagram story because I wanted to keep you guys in the loop. I always tell you guys, if you want to see like the latest updates of things, just follow my Instagram. It's @StephanieMurato, because I try to keep you guys updated on there. And then if it's something bigger, you know, I'll make a video about it. But I posted on my Instagram story that Trigger had a seizure, and I had gotten a ton of DMs from you guys asking him for updates on him and stuff like that. So that's why I'm making this video, just to keep everyone in the loop, because I literally, my last video, I just did an animal update and I was saying how good and perfect he was, and then he has a seizure. So it was pretty crazy how this all went down. So I'm gonna go ahead and share the story with you guys, kind of where we're at with treatment or whatever we're doing with him right now, and what the plan is going forward. So it is really windy out, so if it gets a little bit windy sounding, I'm sorry. But I want to just tell you guys a story, like I said in the beginning here, really quickly. The other day in my area, there was a lot of tornadoes, so that's how the day started. There was tons of tornadoes, so it was super wet. So the footage that I show you from when he had the seizure, it's gonna look really, really wet, just so you guys know, and that's why the pastures were flooded. We had tornadoes throughout the town. And I just want to paint the picture of the day, because the day was really crazy. We had the tornadoes. We were trying to make sure that all the animals were safe, and it was crazy how we ended up catching this seizure, because Pete, the little black kitty that I was telling you guys about, we brought her and the other kitties in because of the tornadoes and stuff, and they looked a little scared. So we were like, okay, you guys can come in the house. And then lo and behold, long story short, Pete accidentally ate an ibuprofen that was on the counter, and ibuprofen is really toxic to cats. So we had to rush her to the animal ER. So that's why I said, long story short, if you guys want me to get into that, let me know in the comments down below. But we had just got done taking her to the ER. We just got home, and we saw right when we just got home him having a seizure. So I want to go ahead and just kind of paint the picture for you guys really quick and tell you guys the story. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it, telling you guys how we caught him having a seizure and the whole process of him having a seizure. So to start the story first, of giving you guys exactly how this went down and how we actually caught our horse having a seizure, because I feel like that's such a rare thing to even be out there in a time of like when the horse is actually having a seizure or something like that. I feel like it's just so uncommon in itself. So we were standing right here in the kitchen, because when we walked through our door, we were putting everything down because we had just gotten back from the vet, like I said. And this is where I was. And we were looking right out this window behind me, and Trigger, Cash, and Dinky were right back there. And we were just looking at the window because it was cool to see them there. And then we saw Trigger basically lay down, and he was right here by this like palm tree that's down. And that's where we could see them right through the window, and then that's when we saw him go down. Now I'm out here where we actually were. We saw, like I was saying, he was laying down, but it almost looked like he was nibbling at his leg, like itching his leg with his mouth, if that makes sense. So his head was moving really fast, and Mike was kind of like saying, oh, he looks like he's itching himself, and I was like, no, something's wrong. And then we really started to see him basically, let's call it like flail, which would be him seizing. So then Mike ran out here, I put everything down that I had, ran out right here. So in this area that Minnie's kind of standing on was a lot more wet. It was like a puddle. So it's dried up now because it's been a couple days from all of the rain during the big storm that had the tornadoes. So Mike was right out here, and then we saw him kind of get up, and then he stumbled back down. And now at this point he was on his side, and then his body was in the water. So when I show you the actual footage that I have, you'll see what he looked like, because he was drenched and dirty, and his mane was really messy and tangly because he was just thrashing on the ground. So at that point, like I was saying, he was laying on his side, and his legs were like flailing again. And then Mike held his head while I called the vet, just to keep his head out of the water, just so that he would obviously not drown. And it wasn't a lot of water, but basically if it was truly like a seizure, there's a good possibility that I guess maybe he could have drowned if his face was submerged in the water. And when they are seizing, they have no control over anything. They even lose control of their bowels. So just for example of how out of control they are when an animal has seizures, and I would believe that it goes the same thing for humans. And we see seizures a lot because Daisy has epilepsy. So this looked like a standard seizure that Daisy would get, obviously just in a 1,000-pound animal form. So Mike was out there, like I was saying, and holding his head until finally we knew that once he was done thrashing and also staying out of his way, because you know we don't want to get hurt as well, and he is completely out of his mind during this happening, so he wouldn't even know if he was hurting us or if he was near us or anything like that. So we get him up, and then basically he was super disoriented. I like to describe it as like it was like he was just side passing, stumbling until he kind of like got it together a little bit to where we could put a halter on him. Now you are going to see some footage we actually took during the scenario of all of this. I didn't film any of the actual seizure, like I said, because we were just so focused on calling the vet and getting the vet on board with everything that was going on, just in case things were headed for the worst. But now what you are seeing is we have him haltered, and at this point he would not move, like he was just standing there. He's a pretty spooky horse in general, but he was acting so scared, which is pretty common for after a seizure. Like when Daisy has them, she just acts really scared because they don't know what just happened. So he was just acting really scared and just stuck there. And as you can see, it basically looked like there was like jolts going through his body near his hind end, and it did this for like a couple minutes, and this was completely after the seizure. It was just like shocks and jolts all throughout his body. So it was really interesting. We were just observing what was going on there. I don't know how to explain this. I've never seen it. He's like, looks like he's getting shocked every second.
Yeah, it's just very, very, very odd. I'll tell you. It's like I said, I don't see very many seizures at all. Very odd to see them in the skies for sure. But if he's kind of standing there quiet at the moment, that's a good thing to start with.
I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a horse have a seizure either, so I've never seen anything like that. So at that point we were pretty nervous still what was going on. And then once that calmed down, we finally got him to like back up on his own. And then once he backed up on his own, he kind of like started to level back out and realized that, okay, like I think he became out of his like episode of having the seizure and kind of like back to like level ground. So we took the halter and lead rope off of him just for safety. If he did go down again, we didn't want that to get wrapped up in him. We didn't want to get up underneath him. So we took it off, and basically per my vet gave him Banamine. So we gave him a 1,000-pound dose of Banamine. So then what it seemed is like he kind of was like aimlessly walking. He was just like kind of like walking around and then would come back because Mike was filming him because I was still on the phone with the vet. So that's really interesting though, because Trigger doesn't do anything without like a purpose. He's not really like an aimlessly walking around horse. He's either grazing, he's just always like doing something. He's not really like an aimless like walker. So he would aimlessly walk around, come back. And then after he was like aimlessly walking around, he started to kind of have a purpose, and he was pushing Cash and Dinky around. Mostly Cash though. What he would do is he would walk up right behind him and literally just like push him to where at one point he even like bumped into him. And I don't know what the deal with that was, but he was just like pushing him to hurt him to keep moving, and then he would walk off and then he would do it again. So I don't know, it was pretty interesting. And then at one point he also did this to Dinky until Dinky walked off, but we were really interested to see him doing that because he just kept like hurting them and then walking away from them. So that was an interesting behavior that we also noticed. He does that casually, like in the pasture if things are being a little crazy or awry, but like for him to just go and push Cash and then walk away and then push Cash again was kind of weird. Basically, that was like the extent of our experience with him having his episode of a seizure. So that was kind of like start to finish of it.
all right?
And then, like I said, we gave him the Banamine, and then what we actually did is we moved him to the front pasture. So we are actually out in the front pasture with June right now. He actually went out with Blaze because Blaze is pretty mellow with him. That's what we had thought. June is pretty crazy sometimes when there's horses out here with her. So we wanted to put a horse that he was gonna be mellow with. And then all of a sudden he just wasn't being mellow. He was literally running back and forth this pasture with Blaze. But they are buddies and they aren't often pastured together. So they were running full speed and it didn't appear like anything was wrong with Trigger. So he literally, after his episode there of like the 3-4 minute seizure thing, and then after casual like walking around and then herding the other horse and donkey, after all that was said and done and we put him up to the front pasture, I don't know if the Banamine started to kick in or something like that, but he looked like he was feeling good. He was running back and forth. It was pretty crazy because I was just like, how did this just happen? And then this happened. So anyways, I wanted to paint that picture for you guys so you could understand how that went, and it was just such a fast process. So now that we have gone through that, he had what we're calling a seizure, because it's really interesting because it's super uncommon for horses to have seizures, I guess. So it became a lot of like up and down if he actually had a seizure. I know this is like pretty much a talking video because it was just so surreal and so scary. We were both, Mike and I, so nervous about what was going on. So we weren't really like filming as much. The only things that we were really filming was because we were trying to get as much footage for my vet to kind of explain the story to him as well. So that's where I'm gonna kind of backtrack to when Mike was holding his head while he was actually having the seizure and kind of explain in a little bit more detail like when I was on the phone with the vet, because the vet literally could not believe that he was having a seizure. And why I say that is because he was more likely believing that Trigger had got struck by lightning than believing that he was actually having a seizure. Because like I said, there was tornadoes and he was like trying to figure out if the horse had got struck by lightning. So when I say it's rare that they have seizures, that was more inclined to think that he got struck by lightning than actually have a seizure.
Yeah, that we just don't see a lot of seizures. Sometimes that go through all the processing and then what could it be.
So when we were describing everything to the vet, like Trigger literally was foaming out of his mouth. He was displaying every symptom like of a seizure that we often see with Daisy. Maybe if I didn't have an epileptic dog, I wouldn't have been able to pinpoint that it was a seizure. So basically what I was trying to do is just explain to the vet that I have an epileptic dog and I'm very familiar with what seizures look like, because he just couldn't believe that the horse was having a seizure. He was explaining like he really wasn't sure what to do because he doesn't really have much familiarity with horses having seizures. So at that point he told me to give the Banamine, which obviously was perfectly fine, and we were just trying to figure out course of action, what to do now that he actually had the seizure. And he couldn't get out to me either, which was the scary part, for like 2 to 3 hours, because he was literally stitching up horses that got hurt during the tornadoes. But in the meantime of waiting for him to come out, I reached other vets even across my other coast. I had other vets in that same like group that I was texting, like the same vets group that was coming out of. So we were just like trying to bounce everything off of every resource that we knew to give us some answers, and we kind of were just like running into the same things about like what to do, and there really was nothing to do. Anyways, so now I'm gonna show you guys when the vet actually came out. Basically he just did an exam on him. I'm gonna show you some of the things that he kind of did because I didn't get to like film it a lot. So basically he did this. So I know that was dramatic, but that's a good thing. Everything is there. His reflexes are good. So he went like this, and that's basically was one of the things that he did. And then he flexed him around like this, and his flexibility was good. So same thing from side to side. So things like this, and then just checked his movements and his gait, and he didn't look off balance or anything like that. He could back up really good. He physically, as in a physical exam, like checked out perfectly. So from top to bottom, like he was good. Like if you didn't know he had a seizure, you would have never known. Like, and there was a good chance if we came home even 10 minutes earlier that we never would have even caught that he had a seizure and would have never known because of how normal he was acting. And he physically checked out perfect. The only thing, like I was saying about his allergies, you guys, they're gonna clear up pretty soon because he was getting a summer sore in this eye. So thankfully the vet was able to get the summer sore out of his eye. So he's on some antibiotics for his eye. But other than that, he was like physically fine neurologically, and everything was fine. So we still were on like, why did this happen? So basically the only thing that we could have done is check blood work to see if any levels were off. So first priority that we were checking is maybe his liver enzymes, and then also if he has like an electrolyte imbalance. And these were the same things that another doctor, like I said, across the other coast was telling me to do. So we did a baseline blood panel to check those things and just to see you know, where we're at with that. That doesn't come back until like a couple days. You know, there's nothing that they can technically do right now anyways. So the next steps, we are just praying that something comes up in the blood work, because that will kind of just be like showing us what we can change or something like that, because there was no evidence of him even having like a head injury or anything like that. We were kind of thinking maybe if he had gotten into something or a toxin, but if he did, the other horses would have too, because they don't roam where they're not supposed to go. So and none of the other horses are showing anything. He's not physically showing any type of injury if he was to have a head injury, so nothing like that. So like I said, we are literally stumped as of right now what this is. We don't know. I'm gonna just like freely tell you guys what the vet is kind of like thinking the next steps would be, and kind of what the possibilities could be at this point. So if the blood work checks out, the next thing that we can do is we can do a spinal tap. And I might be wrong on this, but it's something about checking the spinal fluid to see if there's an infection in there or something like that. So then if that's not it, or if nothing comes out with that either, then the next thing would be to get him a CAT scan and see if there was a mass pushing on something in his spinal cord or on his brain causing the seizures. And that is literally worst case scenario. So we are definitely not thinking that yet. That's like far away in the diagnosis of this. That's just kind of like the forward going plan. This could even kind of be like a fluke, they said. It could happen once and never happen again, but it also could happen again, and we never know, because the likelihood of us seeing that was literally 1 in a million, I think, because we have had him for so long and we've never seen him do this. But maybe we've never actually just physically seen it with our own 2 eyes. So it's really interesting. We are kind of up in the air of where to go with him right now. There's just so much information that's been like flooded in. I hope I'm even remembering it all for this video to share with you guys, because I just wanted to keep you guys updated and where we are with what's going on with Trigger. And it's just so crazy because I have an epileptic dog that has seizures, and now I have a horse that had a seizure, and it's super rare and uncommon for horses to have seizures. And other things were like, did he get recent vaccines, a recent dewormer? Nothing has changed in his life to cause him to have a seizure the other day. So we're stumped. We're trying to get it figured out. Obviously this is, you know, hopefully not life-changing, but we're still just trying to figure out where to go from here with him. So we don't know yet. We are just hoping that this doesn't happen again. We are definitely nervous, and we're hoping that we never experience another seizure with him, but also trying to just figure out where we go from here. When your horse has a seizure, it's a really complicated thing. Even when I was talking to the vet, I was like, do I not ride him anymore? And my vet was like, no, I don't think you should go that far. I'm not riding him, but just kind of play it by ear for now, because I would hate to not ride him for the next, like, you know, 10, 20 years and him never ever have a seizure again and regret that I never rode him again. So, but it's also, you don't want to put yourself in the position of riding a horse that has the possibility of having a seizure. So it's just really confusing right now, because I obviously love this horse and I like riding him. So it's really confusing trying to figure it all out, but we're just hoping for the best. But I will definitely keep you guys updated. I wanted to just put this video out so you guys could hear it from me rather than through my Instagram if you follow there. And just kind of get an update on him. Hopefully we should be getting the blood work back in just a few days, and I will update probably on Instagram, so make sure you follow there just to get the latest on Trigger. But sorry that this video was so just like talking, but I wanted to update you, and this is the best format that I could have possibly done this. So if you have any questions that I didn't answer, or comments, obviously let me know in the comments down below. It's a really interesting topic. I just feel like I'm being surrounded by like animals having seizures in my life, so it's really crazy. But if you want to make sure that you follow this journey, just subscribe to my channel down below so that you don't miss any videos about him if anything crazy comes up. And of course, don't want to miss any of my other videos, and we will definitely have another fun video coming very soon for you guys, because this was not the original planned video, like I said, but I wanted to keep you guys updated. I always like to keep you guys updated on everything that's going on around the farm. And of course, just give this video a big thumbs up for Trigger, and I will see you in the next one.